Good evening, everyone. What I'm about to share with you tonight has the potential to completely reshape the way you understand this law, the way you interact with your subconscious mind, and the way you shape the world around you. I'm going to walk you through a principle so elegant, so fundamental, yet so consistently ignored that countless students of this teaching spend years grinding away at manifestation through raw willpower, when there's a far more precise, far more effective method available to them. What I'm describing is mastery over your own mind, not influence over other people, not manipulation of your external world. Pure, clean dominion over your own consciousness, specifically over the gateway through which your subconscious receives its instructions and carries them out. Once you genuinely grasp this principle, once you begin applying it with real intention, manifestation stops being something you hope for or wish toward. It becomes something that simply occurs. Because you'll have found the master key, the one that opens your subconscious mind's creative capacity fully, cleanly, without friction, without hesitation, without resistance. Let me start by telling you something most people have never considered. Your subconscious mind is already receiving commands every single moment. Not just from your affirmations, not only from your visualizations, but from something far subtler, far more constant, far more influential than either of those. Questions. The questions you put to yourself, spoken or silent, deliberate or automatic, function as direct commands to your subconscious. And your subconscious, that tireless and obedient inner servant, is compelled to respond. It cannot do otherwise. When you silently ask yourself, "Why am I always falling short?" your subconscious doesn't hear a question. It hears an order. Locate every reason I fall short. And it obeys instantly, loyally, completely. It rifles through your memories, your stored experiences, your accumulated beliefs, and it surfaces evidence, seemingly airtight, seemingly conclusive, that you do in fact fall short. Not because that evidence was inevitably true, but because you issued the command to find it. When you ask yourself, "What's fundamentally broken about me?" your subconscious translates that into a task. Compile every flaw, every deficiency, every failure I carry. And it produces that inventory with perfect efficiency, presenting it back to you as objective reality. Because that is what you requested. Do you see what's unfolding here? You are sending commands to your subconscious every hour of every day through the questions that move through your mind. And that loyal inner servant delivers precisely what those commands call for. Most people are spending their days unknowingly ordering their subconscious to gather proof of their limitations, confirmation of their fears, evidence of their inadequacy. Then they're genuinely baffled when their outer life reflects exactly that. Tonight, you're going to learn to turn this completely around. You're going to learn to ask questions that instruct your subconscious to locate proof of your power, confirmation of your success, evidence of your worth. And when you develop this skill, the art of the precisely constructed question, nothing can obstruct the manifestation that follows. Here's the mechanism at work. Your subconscious doesn't reason. It doesn't weigh, evaluate, or challenge. It receives and executes. When you recite an affirmation, your conscious mind often interrupts. Is that actually true? What's your evidence? That doesn't match what I'm looking at right now. That doubt, that editorial voice, dilutes the impression your affirmation makes on your subconscious. But a question bypasses that interference entirely. Particularly a question that takes your desired reality as its starting premise. Because a question doesn't ask for belief, it asks for an answer. And your subconscious, upon receiving that question, immediately begins working to supply one. When you ask, "Why is abundance flowing through my life so naturally?" your subconscious doesn't push back. It doesn't counter with, "But you're not abundant." It simply begins scanning for evidence of abundance. And what it scans for, it finds. And if it cannot find it readily, it begins constructing it. This is the governing principle. What you search for, you discover. What you genuinely ask for, you receive. Not because the universe is dispensing favors, but because your consciousness is the architect of your reality. And a properly framed question gives that architect precise, unambiguous instructions. Now let me draw this together with everything I've shared about assumption. I have told you repeatedly, you must inhabit the feeling of the wish already realized. You must live inside the state of already being what you desire to become. You must think from that fulfilled reality, not toward it. But here's the piece that nearly everyone overlooks. That very assumption can be encoded directly into a question. Rather than stating, "I am prosperous," and wrestling with the disbelief that surfaces, you can instead ask, "Why does prosperity find me so naturally?" Feel what shifts. The statement, "I am prosperous," invites resistance. No, you're not. Look at the evidence. But the question, "Why does prosperity find me so naturally?" triggers a search. Let me locate the signs. Let me notice the flow. Let me recall the moments when this was true. In that searching, in that noticing, you are living inside the consciousness of prosperity. You are assuming abundance by the very act of forming the question. The question itself is an assumption in motion. When you ask, "How did this come together so effortlessly for me?" you are treating the outcome as already secured. You're assuming ease, assuming completion. And your subconscious, receiving that assumption wrapped inside a question, begins synchronizing your thoughts, your emotional state, your perception, and your actions with the reality in which that question is coherent. It works to close the distance between the question and its answer, and in closing that distance, it produces the manifestation. This is why questions carry such extraordinary power. They create what I describe as an open loop in consciousness. Your subconscious cannot tolerate an unresolved loop. It experiences incompletion as something that must be resolved, like a story that has no ending, a melody that never lands on its final note. So when you ask a question, especially one that assumes your desire is already accomplished, your subconscious becomes relentlessly focused on resolving it. It works at every level, during your waking hours and beneath your awareness during sleep, to produce an answer that satisfies the premise of your question. Ask, "Why is everything aligning beautifully for me?" And your subconscious must produce an answer. It must close that loop. It must validate the assumption built into the question. And in doing so, it reshapes your perception, redirects your thoughts, refocuses your attention, and begins reorganizing the fabric of your experience until the answer becomes impossible to deny. This is precisely where questions succeed, where affirmations can struggle. An affirmation can be rejected outright. "I am successful." No, that's false. But a question cannot be rejected. It demands engagement. It demands a response. And in reaching for that response, the mind must operate from within the assumption that makes the question valid. "Why am I succeeding so readily?" forces your mind to step into the identity of someone who is succeeding in order to even begin answering. There's no alternative entry point, and an assumption, held long enough, becomes lived reality. Now, not every question works this way. The construction matters enormously. A self-defeating question like, "Why does nothing ever go my way?" is perfectly engineered to command your subconscious to prove that nothing goes your way. We want the inverse. We want questions designed to command your subconscious to validate your strength, your abundance, your fulfillment. So a properly constructed question requires three specific elements. First, it must treat your desired reality as already established. Not, "Will I become financially free?" but, "Why am I so financially free?" Not, "Is it possible to manifest love?" but, "Why does love move toward me so effortlessly?" Not, "How do I achieve success?" but, "How did I become this successful?" The question must position the end as already arrived, and in doing so, Instruct your subconscious to substantiate that arrival. Second, the question must carry genuine feeling. I have told you again and again, feeling is the operative force. Consciousness without emotional charge is inert. It cannot create, cannot impress, cannot move anything. So your questions must not be sterile mental exercises. They must awaken something real in you. Why do I feel so completely cherished? Guides you into the actual sensation of being cherished. How has joy taken root in every area of my life? Leads you to seek joy. Dwell in it. Become it. The question draws out the feeling. The feeling lands on the subconscious. The impression produces the manifestation. Third, the question must originate from the state you intend to inhabit. This is not a small point. You are not asking from the position of someone lacking what they want. You are asking from the position of someone who already has it. Not, why don't I have money, from within a poverty mindset. But why am I so consistently provided for, from within a wealth consciousness? The question emanates from the fulfilled state. And in asking from that state, you are already occupying it. The act of asking is itself the dwelling. So how do you weave this into your daily life? Begin by simply observing the questions already running beneath your conscious awareness throughout the day. Pay attention to what your mind is quietly asking. Why is this always so difficult? What's wrong with me? Why does nothing ever land in my favor? What if this falls apart? These are active commands being issued to your subconscious, and your subconscious is honoring every one of them. So catch them, recognize them, and deliberately replace them. Then, begin intentionally seeding your day with questions that assume your desire fulfilled, not just during a formal practice period, throughout the entire day. Upon waking, why do I feel so alive and clear this morning? During work, how is it that the right opportunities keep finding me? In your interactions, why do people naturally receive me so warmly? As you wind down, how is my life continuously improving beyond what I even envisioned? Every one of these is an instruction to your subconscious. Each creates an open loop that will drive your inner mind toward resolution, toward manifestation. Third, bring these questions into the space I call the silence. In the moments before sleep, as your conscious mind begins to soften and your subconscious rises to the surface, more open and receptive than at any other moment in your day, that is when you ask your question, not with urgency, not from a place of wanting, but with the quiet certainty of someone who already inhabits the answer. Why is my life so rich with meaning? Asked in stillness, with real feeling, from the place of already living that richness, leaves a deep impression on your subconscious. And your subconscious, holding that impression as you cross into sleep, spends the night in service of it. You wake to find your perceptions subtly rearranged, your attention drawn to things previously invisible, circumstances beginning to shift, the answer to your question becoming gradually undeniable. Let me offer you some examples of questions that carry this quality of command. Not questions born from uncertainty or reaching, but questions that assume fulfillment and instruct your subconscious to confirm it. For wealth, why does financial abundance arrive so consistently? How is it that I am always exactly provided for? Why do I move through life feeling so genuinely free? For love, why is love such a constant presence in my experience? How do I continue drawing such remarkable people into my world? Why does warmth follow me wherever I go? For success, how did all of this come together so naturally? Why does everything I invest myself in seem to flourish? How do the right doors keep opening at exactly the right moment? For health, why does my body feel so vigorous and alive? How is my physical self restoring and thriving so efficiently? Why does vibrant health feel like my most natural state? Feel the contrast between these and questions like, will I ever have money? Can I attract love? How do I get healthier? The first set assumes, the second set doubts. The first set instructs your subconscious to confirm fulfillment. The second set instructs it to confirm lack. Every question you ask is casting a vote for a particular reality. Cast them with awareness. Now let me show you the most potent category of question. The one that doesn't merely change your circumstances, but transforms your identity itself. These questions don't ask about what you possess. They ask about who you are. Who am I now, living inside this kind of abundance? Who have I become that everything flows toward me this naturally? Who am I that others meet me with such genuine respect and warmth? These questions force your consciousness to actually inhabit a new identity, not aspire to it, not imagine it from a distance, but occupy it in order to respond. You cannot answer, "Who am I now, living inside such abundance," without stepping into the consciousness of someone who lives that way. And the moment you step into it to frame your answer, you are living in it. You are impressing that identity on your subconscious, and your subconscious, receiving that impression, sets about making it permanent. This is the deepest form of mind command available to you, directing what self your consciousness inhabits. Because your inhabited identity always determines your reality, without exception. Now, you will ask these questions while your current circumstances appear to contradict them. You will ask, "Why is abundance everywhere in my life?" while staring at a bank account that says otherwise. You will ask, "Why am I so deeply loved?" while lying alone. You will ask, "Why is everything flowing beautifully?" while facing genuine difficulty. And your conscious mind will raise an objection. This is dishonest. The question doesn't reflect what's actually here. Here's what you must hold on to. The question is not attempting to describe your present circumstances. It is issuing a command about your coming reality. You are not asking for information. You are delivering an instruction. Your subconscious has no investment in whether the answer currently exists in your physical world. It only knows that a question has been asked, and an answer must be produced. So when you persist in asking, "Why does abundance flow to me so effortlessly?" despite appearances of scarcity, your subconscious begins its search. It notices abundance where you previously missed it. It draws it toward you. It arranges conditions that call it forward. The external world has no choice but to eventually align with the inner commanding. But persistence is non-negotiable. You must continue asking from the fulfilled state. You must hold the question as valid even when your eyes are showing you something different. Because the moment you allow your circumstances to dictate your questions, you return to asking, "Why do I never have enough?" And your subconscious simply redirects to honor that command instead. Hold your questions. Ask them daily. Feel them fully. And watch your reality reconfigure itself around the answers. Let me leave you with one question. A single question that, if held with consistency and asked from the right internal state, carries the power to shift everything. Why is my life unfolding more beautifully than I ever thought possible? Consider what's embedded in that question. It assumes your life is actively unfolding, not stalled, not struggling, but unfolding, right now. It assumes that unfolding is beautiful, not tolerable, not barely workable, but genuinely beautiful. It assumes that what's emerging surpasses even your own imagination, not merely meeting your hopes, but exceeding them. And it asks why, which sets your subconscious in motion, scanning for the beauty, recognizing the perfection, dwelling in the consciousness of a life expanding magnificently. If that single question were the only one you carried, asked persistently, infused with real feeling, spoken from the state of someone whose life is genuinely unfolding in that way, your entire experience would gradually, then suddenly, reshape itself around it. Because your subconscious, receiving that command day after day, would be left with no option but to resolve the loop by making the answer undeniably, visibly true. Tonight, before sleep, I want you to select one question, a single question, one that takes your desire as already fulfilled, one that stirs something real in your chest when you ask it, one that comes from the place of already having, not the place of still wanting. It might be, why is my life so richly blessed? Or, how is everything falling so perfectly into place? Or, why do I feel so completely at home in my own life? Whatever question pulls you naturally into the state you are claiming, take it with you into sleep. Ask it repeatedly as your awareness softens. Let it be the last thing your conscious mind holds before your subconscious takes over. Why am I so blessed? Why am I so blessed? Feel those words from the inside. Let them carry real meaning. Ask from the being of it, not from the wanting of it. And as that question saturates your consciousness at the threshold of sleep, your subconscious takes it as its task for the night. It searches, it rearranges, it builds, it moves things. All while you rest beneath any conscious awareness, it is working to close the loop, to find the answer, to make the assumed reality visible. And you wake to discover your world has shifted. Perhaps not all at once, perhaps in small but unmistakable ways, but shifting, moving, reorganizing itself to reflect the inner commanding you performed. Do this every night. One question, held persistently, felt deeply, asked from the end, and observe what your life becomes. Your questions are the commands your subconscious obeys. Ask, why can't I succeed? And you order proof of failure. Ask, why am I so genuinely blessed? And you order proof of blessing. A properly formed question assumes the wish fulfilled, carries real emotional charge, and comes from the state you intend to live. Bring these questions into the silence before sleep. Hold them with consistency, and your subconscious has no alternative. It must answer by producing the reality your question has already assumed. Thank you, and good evening. This is Neville Lectures, and I will see you in the next one.